Go.
Oh, well, where's this live?
This ain't your grandpa's ham radio, no sir.
We're just raw dogging this tonight.
Grab your rig, hit the trail, mindset on fire. Parks on the air, we're activating the wire. Summits on the air, climb high, scream CQ, portable power. No shack, just me and you. Experiment wild, break the old rules. Contesting pileups, we're owning the fools. No age limit here, it's a state of mind. Kids table rebels, leave the boring behind. Heavy signals, crashing down. CQ, own the town. POTA, soda, contest roar. Ham radio, kids table forevermore. Beat, boop, bang, waves in the fight. This is our revolution, turn it up tonight. Kids table, not your grandpa's ham radio, your future on the air. QRT out.
Oh my gosh, I want to apologize for Frank. Apparently he forgot how to mute his mic.
How could we, why are we apologizing for Frank? He does this all the time. Gab. The guy does not know when to
The
stop.
StreamYard didn't auto start anything on my end.
Oh my
It looked like we just went straight raw live, no problem.
I don't know, man.
That's what it showed on my end. Okay.
Uh-huh.
He's got to get us banned in like 18 jurisdictions. And
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah,
I didn't
Talking
hear
about hot
anything that Frank
dogs or
did. I think
whatever.
it may be okay. Whatever Frank did, I didn't hear it.
I heard him.
it's,
Tornado Tim, you
Yes, sir.
know, I already warned you. That, yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Ham Radio Kids Table. It is another Wednesday night, and we are gathered around the table to have a little fun and talk about amateur radio. And tonight we have a newcomer to the show, Tim K. I got to tip up here, K5OHY. I'm sitting there, I'm looking, I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta get the bifocals in there to see the call sign. But Tim is here. You guys might be not interested. That's not the word. Although, I mean, hopefully you guys are interested. You might be familiar with Tim. He does have a YouTube channel and does a lot of videos on building antennas, simple antennas that you can take out in the field and do it. Does not only the here's the antenna, but also the kind of the science and the math behind it with modeling and everything like that too. So I think a very good resource for people to look to. So if you haven't done so already, if you're not familiar with this YouTube channel, make sure you get over there, and Frank will get a link in the chat. But Tim, welcome to the Kids Table.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, real quick, Preston, this is a short night tonight. Ham Nation is on at 9 p.m. Eastern. Real quick before we get into Tim, anybody got anything that we need to cover or get out there?
No, just go right into it.
All right, let's get right
do it.
All right, let's do it. So, Tim, tell us a little bit about Tim and your journey into amateur radio.
Well, originally I got started, I was probably 12. I think I got my license at 13. Someone had mentioned something about ham radio at school, and we were talking about getting little handhelds and talking down the street. And during the process of studying for my test, my dad kind of joined me and got our license together. And at that time, you had to learn Morse code, 5 words a minute to get I think Technician Plus is what I got. And, going through that process and listening to the Gordon West tapes, I just really became obsessed with CW. I really liked it. And so I basically got my general shortly after that. And unfortunately, like a lot of kids, I fell out of the hobby, just had other interests when I became a teenager. But I did a little bit around 2003. I was in the military. I got some a QRP radio, and I did some stuff there, but really didn't do much with it until about 2.5 years ago, the beginning of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
I had started a new job that had more time off, and one of my colleagues had studied for his license. And he's one of these like super smart guys. He took his, I think, technician, general, and extra all in one day.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so
One of those.
yeah,
0 to hero.
he's really smart. And so anyway, I was like, man, I used to do that as a kid. And so I just started watching YouTube videos and, got my license like a week later, because I'd let my general license expire, and I relearned Morse code, and it's amazing. I hadn't used it in 20 something years, and it just came back. I guess because when you learn stuff as kids. So I think I did a Parks on the Air, CW Parks on the Air activation 2 weeks or something like that after I got my license. Of course, at 13 words a minute. And I just fell in love with it. It's changed a lot since I was a kid. When I was a kid, you would just get on, call CW, or excuse me, call CQ, and have a little rag chew with whoever came back. You never knew who it was. And now with the internet and all the programs we have now, there's just so much, so many different activities that I'm involved in. It's not just Parks on the Air. I like doing summits on the air. I like doing CW Ops, CWTs. I like doing Straight Key Century Club. I mean, there's just so many things that you can get into now. And so I just kind of became obsessed with just making contacts. I think since I got my license, I looked at QRT earlier today. I've made about 44,000 contacts, or almost 45,000 contacts since I got my license. Mostly CW. I do get on voice every once in a while, but it's pretty rare.
So at 45,000, that's over the entire time you've been licensed, or just in this
just since 2024.
Oh wow.
Beginning of 2024, yeah.
That's a lot.
That's active with a capital A.
Busy bee.
Yeah. So it's just I think a lot of people get involved with different hobbies. They kind of have this addictive personality, and so that's kind of like every hobby I've ever had. I just get really into it. And the fascinating thing about I think what keeps me so interested in ham radio is, most hobbies, you want to get better equipment and you have to spend all this money. I've done woodworking, I've done all this stuff, and it's just like this never-ending, expenditure. Now, when I first got back in the hobby, I just bought all these radios. I've got 10 QRP radios. I quickly figured out that antennas are really what make or break your station, and you can build antennas for almost nothing. Just a little bit of wire and a little bit of know-how, and all the science is already out there. And I think with my channel, I'm just trying to bring that, simplify it a little bit for people that may not understand some of the science behind the different antennas.
Do you find with that science yourself, is it something that you easily understand, or do you spend time?
No.
To be able to teach it, because they do say the best way to learn something is to teach it.
Well, and that's really why I started making the videos. A lot of times I know nothing about the antenna I'm going to make a video on, and I'll spend a week or two just kind of reading, trying to understand. And, I'm not an engineer, and sometimes when you're reading these books or consuming the stuff, it's like, what are you even talking about? What does this mean?
Yep.
And so, I try to break it down, simplify it for myself, and then try to do that for my audience, I guess. And it's not an easy thing to do. And it's funny. This last video I made, I talk about the pseudo-Brewster angle and how that deals with vertical polarization. And I thought I had a pretty good understanding of it. And I had this one guy, he comes on, he's like, no, that's not right. And the ARL handbook or the ARL antenna book is all wrong. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, do you have a source that has it correct? He's like, no. I was like, okay, well, yeah. Some of these antenna topics are so complicated. I don't know if anybody really has a fully grasp on all of the science. Mm-hmm. And so it's just a hobby. I'm not the most knowledgeable person on this stuff, but I try to teach myself and then make videos on the different antennas.
Do you have a copy of this book?
Yes.
You do?
Oh, wait, no. What is that? The fundamentals?
It's the
Roth Hamels.
Roth Hamels.
I have a guy that started watching my videos. I kind of think of him as a mentor. He's an engineer, and he sent me a bunch of book recommendations. I believe that's on there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I need to get a few more books and stuff since I'm kind of going down this rabbit hole.
So this book has always been written in German.
Yeah.
And this edition here, this is the first edition that they actually took it and translated it into English to be able to take it to a wider audience. And I think it's probably considered to be one of the more authoritative books on antennas. It also teaches or I should say teaches. It has the science in there.
Yeah.
So each antenna refers back to the science, so you can go and read into it further. And I like it, and I think it's a great addition. It's not. It can be an expensive book. So I think it's 59 euros. I think it was about $65 or something. And actually, KS0JD mentioned Gigaparts has the book.
Oh, good to know.
Yes. What I would recommend, although they just had one, is because I've seen it a couple times on there. Is they do a Let's Make a Deal live stream about once a quarter, and you can submit when things, if you're interested in something on their website, you can submit an offer, and they'll come back with somewhat of a counter offer or accept the one. So these books are usually discounted through that sell. So if anybody's interested in getting one, I would.
It's the best time to get one.
Yep.
Or during any sale they have.
Now, if they get it from Gigaparts, if they use November Whiskey 9 Foxtrot, will they get double points?
They will, but we don't normally mention that on this.
That's the negative 10% discount code.
Yes.
But use your favorite.
I thought the negative code was KG6 and Eldelia.
Oh, well, there's that one too. That one's twice as much negative as Tornado Temps.
Oh, there we go. So, Mike, have you shared some of those experiences? I know you do a lot with antenna building or playing around with different antennas and everything.
Yeah, I mean, and like Tim, I'm not an engineer. I always joke, like I'm a lobbyist, right? Like I am not a scientist and an engineer and stuff. I have been reading a lot lately, though. Just a plug. I kind of to hold my feet to the fire with all these books I've bought the last year or two, and trying to do a 5-2 summer reading challenge and read regularly. And so I've read a couple antenna books. Some of them are, some of the simpler ones, like Waltz. I read both of Waltz last month. I'm reading one now from the RSGB, which is on VHF and UHF stuff. And it's really good. And there's definitely some things in there about, stacked and bayed antennas that I just, you start getting, like, it gets like way over my head. But it's still good because at least like when you're doing some of the reading and the research, it definitely gets you thinking creatively and maybe thinking outside the box, which is, I think, something that's good for us to do. And stuff. There's no shortage of antenna experts out there, for sure. I guarantee you that.
Have you ever thought about like taking maybe some ideas of a couple different antennas and maybe combining it into something different and trying something along those lines and just see how it performs?
With a little creativity, you can basically build. I kind of think of most antennas are all kind of fundamentally, basic antennas, like a Yagi, for example. You can just take a wire dipole, and just put a wire that's 5% longer behind it, and you have a Yagi, right? Mm-hmm. I think that there are so many antenna designs that have already been developed that there's endless possibilities. I don't know if I'm not smart enough to create new designs, I don't think. But I always run across these very interesting antennas. Like I saw one the other day, it was like called a hentenna, or I think it's called the Japanese Miracle, the nickname. And it's like a 10-meter antenna that has like 10 dBi of gain. It's just a simple wire antenna. Yeah, it's it's kind of interesting. I was the other day I was trying to decide what antenna to take out to the park. I was like, I want, with the conditions being what they are now, if you want to make a lot of contacts, you have to have a really good antenna. Having gain is really going to help you out. And so I started looking at all my antennas. I have a lot. I have a Buddy Hex. I built a 2-element Yagi with a telescoping whip, so you can tune from 20 meters to 2 meters. I have all these antennas, and then I started modeling all of them. Well, a dipole up at 40 feet beats all of them, right? Beats a hex beam because I can't get the hex beam more than about 20 feet up. And so that's what the interesting thing with antennas are. You know, a hex beam at 40 feet would be awesome, but I can't get it up that high. But a dipole is actually a fantastic antenna. Well, then I modeled my doublet that's 66 foot, and it actually has about 2 dB more than the dipole. So it's kind of, you know, there's a lot of preconceived notions, I guess, where it's like one antenna is better than the other, but there's too many factors that you have to take into account, right? Like how high is the antenna? What kind of ground do you have? You know, are you operating on the beach? Are you operating in the desert? So that I think that's what I find really interesting is you try to match the antenna to your goals.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I wanted to back up to something. If I remember right, are you in West Texas?
I'm in West Texas.
Okay, as I say, you tell us a little bit like where you are, like what bands you like to operate on and stuff.
Yeah.
Because the example I always give is like we in the Northeast, it's a very ham dense area, and like 40 meters in the Northeast might be a lot different than 40 meters in other parts of the country as far as, you know, is it worth it or not? And so I'd just be curious, like, you know, share a little bit about like what kind of bands and I know you talked about CW, but bands, modes, what you're kind of looking for, your goals in operating. Are you after DX or are you, you know, a little bit about your conditions and then what your goals are? Because I think that factors in a lot.
That's a great question because, you know, operating 40 meters out here in West Texas is completely different than in the Northeast, right? Northeast, you can jump on any time of day and make contacts. And that's just not the case out here. In fact, Wednesdays, there's mini contests on Wednesdays for CW Ops. I rarely do the morning contest because I just can't do well on 40 meters. You know, my antennas aren't that great for 40 meters. But those guys up in the Northeast, they work 100 guys in 30 minutes and they move up to 20 meters. So for me, I'm pretty much an HF CW guy. And so I focus on the bands that are basically going to yield me the most contacts. And that changes. Back in the fall of 2024, I got a 3-element Yagi for 10 meters. And so when 10 meters was open, I just did 10 meter activations with that Yagi. And it was, you know, 75% of my contacts were DX because 10 meters was just amazing. It was just, I would have DX pileups. Well, when 10 meters, I can't tell you how many times I put that antenna up, 10 meters wasn't open. I didn't make one single contact. Okay. So you kind of have to look at what bands are available. Being out here in West Texas, I'm trying to get my signal usually to the Northeast. Or to the northeast or northeast. And if I aim the antenna that way, I'll either get a lot of contacts up towards the Midwest and the East Coast, or if the conditions allow, that'll get me into Europe. And late in the afternoon, if you can get an antenna that's kind of pointed towards the Northwest, you know, that's Japan, and then maybe a little bit to Australia or New Zealand. It just kind of depends. But the propagation is different at each location, right? So I found that like if the bands are open to Europe, it's going to be usually in the early morning for me. Like I'll just watch the maximum usable frequency website. And in the winter, especially when those upper bands are opening, I would just, you know, go to 20 meters. Then when 15 meters open, go to 15 meters. As soon as 10 meters open, I'd stay there for quite a while and then work the way back down the bands. And that would yield either the most DX or the most contacts.
Yeah, the time of day that you're operating makes such a huge difference. I learned that in the winter because my son was in driver's ed, and he had to get dropped off at the school for driver's ed at 6 a.m. every Wednesday. And, you know, those are a lot of people watching, many of you on the stream know, like, you know, Wednesdays, I do work band Wednesday. I always try to be on the work bands. Yeah. And so I'm dropping them off at the school at 6 a.m. Eastern time. And 30 meters is like it. Like that's my only option. If I want to go out to the park right after, you know, 6 a.m. and operate on 30, that's it. But, you know, I learned, oh my gosh, that's when like Japan and VK, like all these openings from, you know, the east going west, just amazing DX on 30. Yeah. And then as the sun's coming up, you just watch the waterfall. just change on FT8 because I haven't learned the CWs yet. Getting there, Vince. But you know, it was a good lesson. I was out on 30 this morning and got my first contact was a VK station. And stuff. So like the time of the day certainly makes a big difference as far as like what's open and then what type of antenna you might want to use given those bands and stuff.
So what a lot of times what I'll do is I'll go out to the park early in the morning, jump on 40 meters, 30, and I'll just work my way up the bands. And, a lot of times I'm at the park like 5 or 6 hours, do kind of these marathon activations. And it's always it's hard, you want a really good antenna that works on a bunch of different bands. And that's actually, you can use a vertical and just adjust it or use a random wire, which I use a 29-foot end-fed random wire a ton.
I love that one.
But then I noticed that it wasn't working quite as well as, the solar cycle's kind of going down or in bad band conditions. And so it's like, what can I use that has some gain that works on every band? And then I started using doublets, and doublets are probably one of my favorite antenna. You get a highly efficient antenna with some really impressive gain depending on how you cut it. And you can cut it for any length. I mean, if you cut it for 1.25 wavelength for whatever band you want to operate on, it's got about 3 dB more than a standard dipole. But yeah, that's really, for me, it's like trying to find the antenna I can use on as many bands as possible, and have an efficient, good antenna. But like you said, the DX early in the morning on 40 and 30 can be really good.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'm getting out the park when it's dark. So what I'm doing is I'm using a 25-foot whip on my stake pocket mount on my truck because it's dark. I don't want to mess with wires. And then once the sun comes up, I'll change the locations and put an antenna up 30 something feet and have a little bit more gain on some of the higher bands.
What do you use for a tuner portable if you're operating doublets or any type of non-resident antenna? What are you doing for tuners? And,
so I've got the rig that I use most is the FT891, and I've got a little LDG tuner. I forget the exact model number, but it's it doesn't require any power supply. It gets power from the radio. And with a doublet, you can just run the ladder line to a 1-to-1 balance. Some people use a 4-to-1 balance, and then just have like a short piece of coax to your tuner.
Yep.
But if I'm QRP, I've got the Elecraft radios, which have fantastic tuners. And there's a lot of G90 guys out there. That's what I started with. That should be the antenna that everybody with a G90 owns. G90 has a 10-to-1 tuner. You can hook a doublet on there. My 40-foot doublet or my 66-foot doublet will tune on every band 40 through 10 with the G90, and you're getting excellent performance. And you can build one for nothing. I mean, just some wire, really. That's the antenna that everybody with the G90 should be using.
Did you just say a 44-foot doublet?
Yeah, so a 40.
Okay, that's one of the ones that's on my list to do because I think I talked to Hollywood about this once because what I had read was it's got a pretty consistent radiation pattern at that length for the different bands. So which is
the
a factor.
The advantage of the 44-foot doublet, and I think it originally came from LB Seebeck, who wrote a lot about doublets. The 44-foot doublet is really nice because it keeps the gain broadside all the way from 40 to 10.
Okay.
Once you get the wavelength longer than about the length of the doublet longer than about 1.25 wavelength, you start getting more lobes and nulls, which is not a bad thing, but if you want to have broadside gain. So the 44-foot doublet's actually a what they call extended double ZEP on 10 meters. And so, you get that thing up around a little bit over a half wavelength, and it's got like 10 dBi of gain broadside on 10 meters.
Wow.
So in the winter, if you want to do some DX in the winter, that 44-foot doublet will really do well.
I see Vince's gears turning right now. He's doing the math. He's converting it to Canadian, and he's doing the math.
The exchange rate.
Yep. He's like, ooh, can I do that on the side of the mountain?
Yeah, one and a quarter wavelengths is about 1.65 Canadian.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were talking about doing SOTA. The antenna I've been using all summer has just been a simple dipole that I made. I 3D printed a little center insulator with a 1-to-1. You don't even need a 1-to-1 with a dipole, but a lot of people recommend it, so I made one, and I've used that all summer. In fact, when I was doing SOTA, I just was in South Dakota and I did some SOTA summits, and I forgot my mast, and I just felt like an idiot. I had worked a 24-hour shift, and I got off the day we left, and I was so worried about having our camping gear and food. I was like, the most important thing was the mast. And so I took that 20-meter dipole and, threw it up in a tree and had it kind of sloped, and worked fantastic, 5 watts. And one of the summits, there was actually a fire lookout thing that's just rock. And so I was trying to figure out how to there was no trees at the summit. So I basically just hung it from they had like a grounding strap around the whole building. And it was only about 6 inches off the wall. And I'm telling my wife, I'm like, no one's going to hear me. And she's like, hurry up, we got to get up this mountain. And my second contact was Japan, and I'm running 5 watts. It's amazing what a simple dipole can do, especially if you can get it up high enough.
Mm-hmm. You guys were talking about doublets during field day. I was at a field day club, and they had a doublet that was in an inverted V pattern, except it was laid over, and it was like a sloper inverted V, but they were rocking out 130 contacts SSB per hour per hour, and that was an incredible antenna. And they were up 50 feet on the top. I'm not sure what they had for 4-to-1 or 1-to-1, but or length. I didn't get the guy that had the details on it wasn't in the area, but man, that was an incredible antenna. I'd like to do that in a smaller fashion in POTA somehow.
It's funny. The other day, someone asked the exact question, what tuner should I get for my FT891? And everybody was recommending the Yaesu FC50, I think it is. It's the one they made for the FT891. And, I made a comment. And I usually don't comment on Facebook, but I was like, I could help this guy out. And I was like, you may consider getting a wide range tuner to use for, antennas like doublets. Get an LGG or something like that does 10-to-1, and you can use a doublet. And the amount of, I actually got multiple people calling me an idiot saying, if you need a tuner that does 10-to-1, you don't know what you're doing. And
y'all are still using coax, you mean?
He's like, one guy was like, if you have a 10-to-1 SDWR, you're only radiating 10% of your power. And, there's a lot of misconceptions out there. With a doublet, it's just so convenient because you're running ladder line. You don't have to worry about SWR. You don't have to worry about cutting it to an exact length. Another antennas like that is I've been messing around with loops, full wavelength loops. My club puts up an 80-meter full wave loop for field day.
Holy.
And, and we set up at the weather center here, and they let us use their 2 towers, and then there's another building that we can kind of triangle. It's like a triangle shape, and it's on the SSB station, and they're just like rocking QSOs. We're all using N1MM, and you can see all the other stations, boom, 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 and I'm like, I want my name on there or my coastline on there the most. And so and I didn't know much about full wavelength loops. I didn't at the time, but at about 2 a.m, everybody went to sleep except for me. I'm the only one operating, and I'm kind of a, like I said, I have addictive personality. I can operate all night long. And so I grabbed my key and snuck over to the single sideband station, which is actually in a completely different building, and got on the 80-meter loop. And it was just incredible on 40 meters and 20 meters. And so I started researching 80-meter loops and full wavelength loops, and realizing how good of an antenna they are. And they have a lot of, similar to a doublet, you run ladder line to it, and you don't have to worry about cutting it to any specific length. I just put a 40-meter loop up Monday on my house, and it's really not even that high. 2 sides are about 20 feet, and the other side's 30 feet, and it's kind of a triangle. It's just incredible antenna. That those full wave loops have a lot of gain on the higher bands. You know, they're too low for the fundamental frequency. So like an 80-meter loop, even at like 40 feet, it's just going to be an NVIS antenna. But then you get up to about 20 meters and you're getting, 10 dBi gain. And then you go up to like 10 meters and you're getting way more. I modeled my little 40-meter loop on my house, and I was just checking to see which bands I could tune it on, and I tuned it on 6 meters, and I'm just kind of messing around with it. And I hit a RBN skimmer about 1,100 miles away up in the Midwest. I'm like, well, that's crazy. So I looked at the model, and it has 13 dBi at like 11 degrees on 6 meters. And I mean, all I did was cut like 140 feet of wire. And you're getting the performance of a Yagi. Now the problem is I can't rotate it. Simple wire antennas can have performance, and I think that's one thing that a lot of people need to understand. You don't need a tower and a Yagi to have a lot of fun in this hobby.
Yes, for sure. And you talked about that subpar antenna and working Japan, and I've had a similar experience.
Yeah.
Just stringing up an end-fed half wave at 7 feet. Yeah. I just reached it up into the pine trees as far up as I could reach it, and I ran it along the side of a walking path. At 7 feet tall, people could walk under it; they didn't even see it. And I worked Europe. I worked Europe. The next contact was Japan, and a whole pile of folks in the glorious US of A in between. It was great activation.
I hyper focus on getting the best antennas possible, but it's amazing what you can get away with. And I think that's another thing. You don't have to have a great antenna to make contacts. Right. I've used a 4-foot whip and got DX on it. Propagation is just one of those strange things that, you never really know what's going to happen, and you can have extremely poor band conditions. For example, I put up this little loop the other day, and I'm just, tuning out each band to kind of see what it's doing. And I send a test to my call sign, and someone sends a question mark, real booming signal. And I send my call sign again, and it's one of the German guys that hunts me a lot, DL3 DXX, I believe. And we have a little QSO, and, he gives me a 5, I think he gave me 559, and the band conditions are terrible. It's amazing. Even with poor band conditions, you can actually get DX, and sometimes when those weird conditions are happening, the ionosphere is changing so much that sometimes it presents some really interesting propagation.
Sometimes the window just opens up for that particular country.
Crazy. Well, doing these really long activations, you're out at a park for 6 hours, you can actually see when the propagation is changing, because all of a sudden I'll get all these contacts in one state, or all of a sudden I'll get like 5 Japanese stations, and then they just go away. It's just like opens up for. So if you want to get like DX, I think one of the secrets is just spend enough time on the air. If the longer you're out there and the more bands that you try to hit, the more interesting contacts you'll get.
What program do you use to log your contacts with while you're in the field?
I'm a huge fan of Ham 2K Polo.
Okay.
I've used other stuff. There's a few others that I really like too. But Ham 2K Polo for me is just like, it's very simple to use, but there's some very powerful features to it. For example, you can import. I have like 35,000 QSOs imported into that database, and so whenever someone contacts me, it pulls up and it's like, hey, it'll show how many contacts I have with Brian every time we have a QSO. So that's usually what I use out in the field. And it pulls up that information. If you have your logs imported, you don't need internet to do that.
Well, and that's part of what I was asking. Specifically with Ham 2K, I know World Radio League does it, Amherst does it, the mapping feature. And being able to get that real-time feedback and seeing kind of what that radiation pattern looks like, and be able to track it over time for that activation. And to your point, maybe in the morning you're seeing more West Coast, and in the afternoon you're seeing more East Coast, or vice versa.
Yeah, it's really interesting how that changes. But yeah, having the map is kind of neat. A lot of times I'll have because I put up these crazy antennas. A lot of people come by and want to see, hey, what are you doing? And I can show them, and I can pull up the map and say, hey, these are all the people I contacted. And that's kind of like, they're like, oh wow, that thing's really getting out, And so that is pretty handy. Or like, the visual aspect of having those maps is pretty neat.
Do you? And I do remember when. I can't remember who the gentleman is. Mike, I think is his name, and I cannot remember his call sign. But he did one of the first programs where you could upload an ADIF file to his website and then map them out for you. And those were really cool to be able to see that. And I'm glad that we've got tools like that now to really visualize and help out. I mean, I remember when I first started, I put up I think, how was it, the ICOM map, or maybe it's the AZU map, but the map of the North America, and and I'm plugging little flag pins in as I got QSL cards and stuff like that, and that still hangs on the wall. I haven't updated it for probably 15 years, but it's still there. It was a little fun thing I did with my son when he was young. But do you? You had mentioned people come up to you at the park. Do you get a lot of foot traffic while you're activating then, or?
It depends on the park. I mean, a lot of the parks I activate out here are kind of in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I do. When on our recent camping trip, I didn't embarrass my wife too much, so I mostly used the 17-foot whip on the truck. Because when you're staying at like state parks and the campgrounds, I didn't want to be too string wires up everywhere. But yeah, I had a number of visitors, and sometimes it's kind of frustrating. I like talking to them, but it's always when you have a pilot going, Yeah. And it's a lot harder when you're doing, you're sitting CW and you're trying to talk to them. Usually I'll take a break or send sorry, like I'll finish a QSO and just say, QRX or whatever. But yeah, I think it's important to be an ambassador and talk to the people that come by. I've been at my local park here in Midland is the Bush family home, and it's where George Bush moved to, and so we get visitors from all over the world. And so like sometimes I'll be out there with an antenna and I'll have people from Japan come over. They don't speak English, and I'm talking to them and they see the antenna and they're like, ham radio. I'm like, yeah. And so it's kind of interesting how interested people are in the hobby, and everybody's kind of got a story about ham radio. I was at a park and I was in the Badlands in South Dakota, and the guy's camping out right next to us, old retired couple. He comes over and he's like, he shows me a picture, and he had found his dad's QSL card on eBay and bought it. And actually, I think the guy sent it to him when he contacted him. But anyway, he showed me, he's like, this is my dad's call sign. He showed me all his radio gear that he still had in his basement. Everybody kind of has like a uncle or a grandfather that did ham radio. And, it's kind of cool to show him it's still going, and it's, how much has changed. Yeah.
Actually, last night on the Clubhouse, Shane was talking about that, where he had showed a QSL card from his grandfather, and a gentleman sent him a radio. He had mentioned wanting to do something with that radio that Grandpa had, but he no longer had it in his possession. A gentleman had one and sent it to him. So he's in the process of getting that restored now, which is kind of cool. And hearing that, I hear that a lot too when I hear people at the park. There's almost always a father, grandfather, an uncle, somebody that's close to him in the family that was an amateur radio operator, and it's almost always fond memories that that they bring up from that time generally as a kid. So anybody that talk to?
Speaking of restoring radios, I ran across this really interesting YouTube channel the other day. I don't know if y'all, I can't remember his call sign, unfortunately. He's in South Texas, or on the coast of Texas, and he restores old Heathkit radios. And it's almost like ASMR, where he's like taking apart, he goes through every resistor. And then he's like, at first he like actually washes them down with water and soap. And then you're ever like, whoa. But evidently he's really, really good at restoring the heat kit radios. So like, I wish I could remember his call sign. I'll have to look it up, but very interesting YouTube channel if you're into that kind of thing.
We look forward to you finding that link and maybe
I
posting
can
it
find it real
in
quick.
the Ham
Yeah,
Radio
let me
Kids
see.
Table Discord here or something.
Yeah, I'll find it.
That would be great. Yeah, there's
Yeah, it's-
absolutely something about an international visitor popping by when you're activated, and that happened to me Monday when I was doing SOTA in Banff, Alberta. It was the lowest summit that I could walk up, and it was probably still too much for me because my shape is round. And I had somebody say, "Oh, what are you doing over there?" And I was sitting like 15 feet away from the plaque that says, "Congratulations, you made it to the summit," and kind of a historical monument there and whatever. And I said, "Oh, I'm doing a little Morse code." He says, "Yeah, I heard that part. Who have you been talking to thus far?" And I picked up my little sheet and I started to say all the places. And I said, "So where are you from?" And they said, "Oh, Ireland. My friend was into ham radio." And the next couple that walked up, exactly the same interchange, except they were from Sweden. And we do have to be good ambassadors for sure.
Yeah.
Hey,
Right.
Tornado Tim, would you bring up my screen share? And Texas Tim, is this the channel you're thinking of? Once Tim brings it up.
Will. Yeah, I was just typing it out. Yeah, Will Everett. Yeah, it's great. You got to check out his videos. I was at work one night and I think I watched about 4 hours of him restoring heath kits because I was just, and I don't know, I kind of know a little bit, but I'm like, I don't know what he's doing, but it was fascinating.
I could sit and watch that stuff too.
Oh man, and like at one of them, he had one of the toggle switches, and he took it all apart. It has like 15, 20 wires going to it, and he had to take it apart to clean it, and then he put it all back together. And I think he had to take it apart again. I'm like, oh my gosh, the amount of patience that he has is incredible.
It's off topic, but I love watching mechanics do their, master mechanics on YouTube, working through problems and doing things I couldn't imagine doing on automobile. That stuff it's like eye candy for me. I can't keep my eyes off of it. And I bet it's the same way with that radio channel.
That's very cool. Yeah, we've spoken about Will Everett on the podcast, and there's a couple other guys like that. Mr. Carlson's Lab is another great YouTube channel if you want to learn about electronics. I'll find a link to that, and many others, of course.
I think Tornado Tim has an idea for the next guest or down the line.
I'm looking for that contact info right now.
What's interesting is I don't think he even has an electronics background. He was like a very well-known journalist, actually. I believe he was a war journalist, and he did some documentaries that were pretty impressive. So I don't know how he got into restoring heath kits. It's kind of interesting.
One thing, since talking about the retro stuff, I'll plug just because it's my background. Back of me is from the Antique Wireless Association's museum, and they're practically in my backyard outside of Rochester, New York, and they just have like fantastic antique radios and exhibits. They have a replica of the radio room from the Titanic. They have like a replica Western Union telegram station. They do a lot of work on old radios. I got to do AM on a Collins K1W, so I got to do a kilowatt on a 40 meter AM with one of the old Collins, and they obviously do a lot of workshops and things, doing some restoring and building and stuff like that. And I'm definitely gaining an appreciation for some of the older stuff now.
Did it hum for you pretty good there, Mike? Give you a hum?
I have a video up on my channel, shameless plug, but when I was they do an AM QSO party annually, and when I went down there to operate for that, it ended up blowing one of the tubes or something, and it scared the bejesus out of everyone because we're just sitting there and you see the bang, and we'd open it up and they figured it out, replaced stuff, and we were back at it. But oh man, it was fun. It was definitely a neat experience.
The big
why
AM
those
towers. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you know why those old old radios, they hum a lot, right? It's because they don't remember the words.
Yeah.
The AM towers, those things are spooky, man, because the whole tower, if you don't know, the whole tower is the antenna. And there's a video out there of a dude putting a hot dog up against it when it's transmitting, and it just fries the tip of it. And look, oh man.
So a lot of people, Yearling he's an engineer, he does a lot of computer videos. He's also an amateur radio operator. And his father, I think, is the gentleman who had that video. His dad is a broadcast engineer and does a lot of radio engineering videos and stuff like that. So some people might be familiar with him. You were saying something?
The interesting story about that. My dad, he was in the Coast Guard, and he repaired radios, and he did a lot of isolated duty at Loran stations. And so, if you're not familiar, Loran stations are predecessor to GPS, and they have these huge towers and I forget how many watts they put out, but it was like mega. I mean, it was ridiculous. And he said they could throw rats up near the antenna and they would just explode. Like it was just.
I believe the official rating was a gazillion.
It's a lot.
It's
a lot. So.
Yeah, those are spooky, man. Wouldn't want to get close to them.
So I did want to point out real quick. We have Huntsville Ham Fest coming up. Are you going to make it to the Huntsville Ham Fest, Tim?
I am. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Look forward to meeting you in person.
I will be there.
Are you camping, or are you just coming in for the weekend, or?
I'll be there Thursday and leave Sunday. I think Sunday afternoon. So I'm coming in Thursday and hope to do some summits or POTA activations or something. And so yeah, I'll be there the whole weekend. No, I'm not camping. I got an Airbnb close to the state park that's near there.
Okay.
I forget the name of the park, but it's
Montana.
about a mile from that park.
Yeah. Every night is a party when Monday through the following Monday, or Sunday.
Yeah.
But always a good time. There is a link in the chat.
A reminder. Yeah. I just dropped the cookout sign up link. You want to sign up if you want to get the food.
Yeah. So what they're doing this year, it's a little bit different. Is they're requesting people sign up so they know how much food to order. It is donations is what it is. So there isn't a set fee for it or anything like that. And then any money that's left over above the cost of the food, they will donate to a youth radio activity this year. It has been the Teachers Institute in the past with Steve Game leaving that role. It's up in the air right now, but it will be some youth related amateur radio thing. Also, you had mentioned Mike had mentioned the museum. Also there, if you guys have never been to Huntsville, they have the Signals Museum, which is a really cool museum that's there in town, and it's got every bit of RF that you could think of, telecommunications, radio, TV. There's examples all the way from the very beginning to old teletype. Vince's talked to, or not teletype, I'm sorry, old Morse code stations, telegraph stations. So you can experience everything from the beginning to modern day stuff, which is kind of neat.
The Spark Gap.
I believe they have one.
Yep. They got one at the Antique Museum too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, any antennas that you have not tried yet that you're interested in?
You know, I have a list. I have like a Google document list of antennas I want to try.
Wow.
You know, there's really a never-ending amount of them. You know, it's I can't think of anything specific right now. You know, the other day I was gonna, go and make this wire Yagi, and I had a kind of interesting idea. I was like, I have a little Bluetooth relay that a ham in Italy makes, and I was like, I could put that on the reflector and basically make that reflector not a reflector anymore, and like basically have an A/B switch from a dipole to a Yagi. I thought that'd be kind of cool. I've got a lot of different ideas, but finding the time to do them is another story. It's as you know, going out and recording and making videos is extremely time consuming. So I don't get to do it as much as I would like, but I definitely have a long list of projects I want to try.
You're looking at like 6 dB loss when you film an activation. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had one guy. He was like, I did this big long talk about verticals versus dipoles and ground effects, and I mean it's like, I was rambling on for like 20 minutes, and then I set up the antenna, do some A/B tests, and then I did like an hour activation. He's like, you only made one DX contact, and you lured people in. I was like, well, that wasn't really the video, And it was a day when propagation was just terrible. I was like, I couldn't believe I got any DX at all. But it's just, it is when you do record it, sometimes it's not there are activations I wish I was recording afterwards, right? You're like, oh man, this would have been incredible, but.
Was that
there's other ones where you spend all the time like setting it up and doing B-roll and everything else, and it's like
well, my problem with making videos is I really try to rush the process so I can actually get on the air and make context, because that's actually what I want to do. So it's like a lot of times I'm like, okay, I gotta get this video, and then I'm very uncomfortable on the camera, so I've got to do like 20 takes of each thing to make sure I don't I say something wrong, I'm like, oh no. So it can be a very frustrating process, and I'm sure you've all gone through that. Of course, I think as you do it more, you get more comfortable.
So what you do, you get out of the car. You show up to the park. You get out of the car. You set up 1, 2, 3, however many cameras you have in the places that you're going to cover the area. You hit record on all of them.
Yeah.
And then you just take it through the whole thing, and then go back and fix things up if you need to in either re-recording or post to make things work out.
Yeah, I'm learning that because when I started doing this, I literally had no idea what I wanted to record. I had no idea how to do it. I was just going out and recording CW activations, and I remember I was curious. I was using a 29-foot random wire, and I had started using the POTA Performer, and I was like, I wonder which one's best. And so I set both of them up, and I recorded basically RBN tests on every band, 10 meters through 20 meters on each antenna. And, that was the one video that, like, at that time I had no subscribers, and that video had slowly gotten 1,000 views. I'm like, wow, people are actually, and then I came to the conclusion that I should probably make videos that I would want to watch. And I was like, I like watching activation videos, but I can't watch, I don't have time to watch a 30-minute video of an activation. If I'm watching an activation video, it's usually when I'm in it and I want to see how I sounded. And so at that point I kind of that's when I started making antenna videos, because that's pretty much what I'd been focused on watching on YouTube. And
I'm just impressed that you got like 45,000 contacts this year, and you still do YouTube. I don't know how you managed.
It's been 2 years. It's been 2 years, a couple of years.
Because I have to hyper focus on one or the other, because the editing and everything that's involved. It's well,
that's why that's why I put out maybe a video every month or every 2 weeks at tops. Because it's just my first love is to do CW, and I don't care if it's for a CWT, Straight Key Century Club, Parks in the Air. I like Parks in the Air because, even when you're doing contests, sometimes you don't get pilots like you get when you're doing Parks in the Air. I mean, it's the pilots you get. Like when I was in South Dakota, I was at a really, rare park. And I mean, the pilots I got up there were absolutely insane. In fact, I became the park leader after 2 days activating there. But it was only like 300 contacts or something like that. But it's definitely my preference is to operate CW and not make videos. But and that that's pretty much. I'll probably only make videos on stuff that I'm actually interested in. You kind of feel this drive to make YouTube videos to increase your subscribers. You got to put out stuff all the time, and it's just I don't have the time or the energy to do that. And so
I know the feeling.
I'll pretty much just put out stuff that I'm interested in, and if people want to watch it, it's great. If not,
I think Thomas sometimes K4SWL has the best format. He just goes and activates, puts the camera on his chest, and you get his point of view. He just talks his way through it, and it's just like sitting down and having a conversation. So, I'm getting a notice from our producer that we only got about 5 minutes left. So I did want to take a few minutes here to go around the table. Once again, anybody, if you've got something coming up on your channel that you wanted to talk about or anything, Frank, you got?
Anything, Frank?
I'm supposed to have something? No,
I don't.
No.
Okay.
Don't. Keep going.
All right. Brian, how about you? Anything coming up on your channel here in the next week?
No, man, I was in a mad rush to get 3 videos done, so I spent a lot of time in the studio editing. So I'm just in a chill moment right now, just relaxing a little bit, trying to think about my next adventure.
Awesome. Ham Smarter. How about you?
You know, I have just found some footage that was on the cutting room floor that will turn into a video. So that's good. I've got 4 activation videos in the can, in rough form that need to be edited. And I have been selling a whole bunch of Morse tutor kits lately. If you don't know, my buddy and I, we do this for beer money. Morse tutor kits, paddles, and now microlight traps for trapped and fed half waves. So that's what I've been up to lately.
Really? I'm going to check that out.
There you go.
Yeah. Jeff, how about you? You got anything?
Well, this weekend is the summer Parks on the Air Support Your Parks weekend.
It is, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. It's supposed to rain all day Saturday and maybe Sunday, but we'll see. I want to go out. Definitely, it's been 2 or 3 weeks since I've been out. But I'm also working on something special for hopefully next Tuesday. We shall see what happens with that. Yeah. So,
Jeff, all I gotta say is, be like the post office. Rain, sleet, snow, or shine, POTA must always go through.
Yeah, if you want to get your gear wet, have fun at it. I paid a lot of money for my gear, and I take care of myself.
You got to get out of the car to do it. You can do it from inside.
Yeah, you do.
The car.
You got to get out and put your antenna on the roof.
You know,
Really
it's
quickly, I want to plug a video that Jeff did because it's a textbook case of how to do a low profile activation in a very public area about his Flight 93 memorial activation. Everybody go to Jeff's channel and watch this video. It's not long and it should be a textbook. That's my plug for Jeff's video.
Thank you.
That is a very good point because that's solemn ground, and you don't want to be the attraction there.
As I said in the video.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You're not the attraction, folks. The park is. So it's there for a reason. This one was there for a specific one. So give it the respect that it's due and don't be an alpha hotel.
That's right. Jeff sends t-shirts, by the way. Go check out his merch shop.
K3JRZ.com. There you go.
Check out. He has a "Don't Be an Alpha Hotel" t-shirt. So I'm sure there'll be a sighting or spotting of that or two in Huntsville.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I want to get a shirt that says "I had potential."
Yeah. Is it going to be a dead battery?
Yeah.
So tomorrow, Thursday night ham radio, Freddie Mac and I both got premieres. It starts at 7:29 Eastern time, 6:29 Central, and you can do all the other maths. But Freddie and I both got videos, and the other thing I'll just plug going on this weekend. I've never done this contest before, but I'm going to give it a shot for just a little bit casually on Saturday, is the CQ Worldwide VHF contest, which is on 2 and 6 meters. And they split this contest. The analog portion, CW and voice, was 4th of July weekend. But Saturday's the digital portion. And so I just like to encourage anyone watching, this is 6 meter season. This is a great time for sporadic E and 6 meters. So if 6 is something you don't do a lot, hop on 6 meter FTA on Saturday. Give it a go. Just toy around. Maybe you get lucky, maybe you don't, but you don't know unless you try. And if you're by the water or you're in the Great Lakes like I am, there's fantastic tropo on 2 meters the last day or two. Give the 2 meters a shot if you have that capability. But ultimately, yeah, give 6 meter FTA a shot this weekend.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I see it is 9 p.m. Eastern. Let's go ahead and wrap it up, get out of here. Guys, everybody have a great rest of the week. Plenty of ham radio content on YouTube, and we will talk to everybody later. Let the guys and gals over at Ham Nation know that the Kids Table sent you, and we will see everybody later. 73.
Yeah.
Later, all.